There are moments in sports that define everything. A single play that cements a legacy, silences every critic, and changes the direction of a franchise forever. For most rookie quarterbacks, those moments don't come often, and when they do, you grab them with both hands and refuse to let go. That's exactly what Shedeur Sanders was ready to do. He had just carved through a defense that was supposed to intimidate him. He had just outplayed the quarterback everyone said was better than him. He had just dragged a struggling team back from the brink when nobody believed they still had a chance. The energy in the stadium shifted. Fans stood up because they knew what was happening, the birth of a franchise star. And then, in a split second, that moment was ripped away. One decision, one call, one unbelievable choice by the Cleveland Browns coaching staff changed everything. Instead of letting the quarterback who had carried them all game finish what he started, they pulled him off the field. The opportunity he earned, gone. The drive that should have been his signature, handed to someone else. It wasn't just a bad call, it felt like betrayal. It felt like they didn't believe in the same player who had just saved them from disaster. People watching at home didn't know what to say. Fans in the stadium stared in disbelief. Even teammates looked confused because the guy who put the team in position to win was suddenly told to sit and watch. It didn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense. And for a player who has spent his entire life fighting for respect, this wasn't just frustrating, it was personal. Shedeur Sanders isn't some backup trying to prove he belongs. He's one of the most hyped rookies the NFL has seen in years. He's the son of a football icon, a quarterback raised for these exact moments. And just when he was about to claim one of the biggest moments of his career, someone decided he didn't deserve it. Someone made the choice to take the ball out of his hands when everything was on the line. That's the kind of decision that doesn't just change a game, it changes relationships, trust, and the entire direction of a franchise. Because when you take away a quarterback's moment, you take away more than a play. You take away confidence, you take away momentum, you take away the belief that the team is fully behind him. After the game, Shedeur tried to keep his composure. He tried to stay calm and professional, but you could see it, that fire in his eyes, the disbelief, the feeling of being robbed, the realization that the people who should be building him up might be holding him back instead. That night was supposed to be a celebration, a statement, a turning point. Instead, it became something much darker. The moment the world first began to question whether Shedeur is being set up to fail by the very organization that promised to build around him. And if that's true, this goes way deeper than football. This could be the beginning of one of the biggest rookie controversies the NFL has seen in years. Because if this is how Cleveland treats their star of the future, what happens next might shake the entire league. From the moment Shedeur Sanders declared for the NFL draft, the pressure was relentless. He wasn't just another rookie trying to find his place. He was expected to become the face of a franchise the second he stepped through the door. Analysts dissected every throw. Critics questioned his transition from college, and entire talk shows revolved around whether he could handle the NFL spotlight or if he was simply riding the fame of his last name. But nobody questioned the expectations. They were sky high from day one, and the Cleveland Browns made it clear that they were building their future around him. But as soon as he arrived, the comparisons started, and they didn't stop. While Shedeur fell to Cleveland, the story dominating the offseason was about another quarterback, Cam Ward, the #1 overall pick. Every headline seemed to say the same thing. The Browns messed up. They should have picked Ward. They should have grabbed the sure thing. They should have stuck with the traditional choice instead of rolling the dice on Sanders. And the media didn't hesitate to make the rivalry personal. Every single day turned into a competition between the two quarterbacks who'd never even stepped on the same NFL field yet. So when the schedule dropped and this matchup appeared early in the season, the narrative was already written. This was the measuring stick. This was the game that would either silence the critics or prove them right. The pressure was unreal. The entire league watching, analysts waiting to pounce, fans desperate for hope. But instead of folding under that weight, Shedeur walked into the game like he'd been preparing for this moment his whole life, because in reality, he has. Still, expectations don't always match reality. Cleveland promised to support him, develop him, and give him the tools to succeed. They promised stability, something rare for a franchise that's known chaos more than success. They promised they were ready for a quarterback with his swagger, his confidence, and his voice. But promises are easy in the offseason. When the real games begin, the truth reveals itself. And what's becoming clear, painfully clear, is that Shedeur's rise is happening in spite of the organization around him, not because of it. He wasn't supposed to outshine the #1 pick. He wasn't supposed to walk into the NFL and look this poised, this talented, this ready. Yet he did, and it's already causing tension, because the more he proves himself, the more uncomfortable the people above him seem to get. Expectations said Shedeur would need time to grow. Reality? He's already performing like a franchise star, while the team still treats him like a backup, auditioning for a role he's already earned. And the craziest part? This was only the beginning of the chaos that was about to unfold. The stormy Cleveland sky should have been a warning. Wind whipping from every direction, rain cutting through the air, a field slick enough to ruin even the most polished quarterback's rhythm. These were the kind of conditions that usually turn NFL games into messy, low-scoring slugfests. But for Shedeur Sanders, this wasn't a day to survive the weather. It was a day to rise above it. Instead of letting the storm dictate the game, he took control of it, throwing with precision that seemed almost impossible given the chaos around him. Every snap became another reminder of the talent the Browns had chosen. He stood tall in the pocket, reading the field like a veteran. When the defense sent pressure, he didn't panic, he adapted. He escaped, extended plays, and hit receivers in stride with pinpoint accuracy. Deep balls cut through the rain like they were attached to laser guidance. And every time Cleveland needed a spark, Sanders delivered it himself. Drive after drive, he was the heartbeat of an offense that suddenly looked unstoppable. Then came the stat line, the kind of stat line rookie quarterbacks dream about but rarely ever see. 364 passing yards, 4 total touchdowns, against a defense built to shut down young passers and force mistakes. Against the quarterback, every expert said Cleveland should have drafted instead. This wasn't just a good performance, it was a declaration. A message to the league that Shedeur wasn't here to play small or take a year to learn the system. He was here to take over. What stood out even more than the yards and the touchdowns were the moments. 3rd and long conversions with defenders crushing in on him, throws to tight windows that only confidence and talent can make. Decisions you don't expect from a rookie, the kind legends are built on. The crowd roared louder with every drive because they knew they weren't just watching a promising debut, they were witnessing a star begin to shine. And the biggest moment? The final comeback push late in the 4th quarter. Down multiple scores, clock bleeding out. Most rookies crumble under that kind of weight, but not Shedeur. He locked in. Every play looked like he was seeing the game in slow motion while everyone else scrambled in panic. With cold-blooded accuracy, he carved open the opposing defense and marched his team straight into the end zone. For a brief, electrifying moment, every person in that stadium believed the impossible was about to become reality. That drive was supposed to be his signature, the moment the league officially woke up and said, "This kid is special." Instead, it became the setup for one of the most puzzling and damaging decisions a coaching staff has ever made. Because just when momentum was unstoppable, just when the Browns needed their leader to finish the job, just when greatness was within reach, they took the ball out of his hands. The ball crossed the goal line, the crowd erupted. The impossible comeback suddenly felt not only believable, it felt inevitable. After everything working against them, the Browns were a single 2-point conversion away from forcing overtime and completing one of the most unbelievable finishes of the season. And everyone watching knew exactly who deserved the chance to finish the job. Shedeur Sanders, the rookie who had just carried the franchise on his back, the quarterback who had outdueled the #1 pick, the player whose confidence and poise had transformed the energy in the stadium. There was no question, no debate, no hesitation needed. Until there was. In one of the most bewildering decisions football fans have seen in years, the coaching staff signaled for a different personnel package. Shedeur watched from the sidelines, helmet on, ready, confused, as he realized he wasn't part of the final play call. The coaches pulled him off the field. The very player responsible for creating that moment was suddenly told to stand and watch from a distance. The stadium, moments earlier filled with roaring hope, went silent in confusion. Teammates looked toward the sideline with wide eyes, unsure if they'd heard the call correctly. Fans didn't scream in anger at first because they were too stunned to even react. It felt like a glitch in the system, like someone had made a mistake they'd immediately fix. But it wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. Instead of trusting the quarterback who had delivered all game long, the Browns rolled out a creative gadget play, a risky design that relied on misdirection and timing, and a play reportedly that hadn't worked even once in practice. The type of play that only gets called by coaches trying to prove they're smarter than everyone else, rather than simply trusting the best player on the field. The snap came. The timing was off, the defenders didn't bite, and just like that, the Browns' comeback died before it even had a chance to breathe. No ball in Shedeur's hands, no shot to finish what he started, no trust in the player who earned that moment. As the opposing team celebrated and the game slipped away, cameras immediately turned to the Browns' rookie quarterback. He stood still, jaw clenched, eyes narrowed, trying to process what just happened. You didn't need audio to understand exactly what he was thinking. Why did they take this away from me? This wasn't just a questionable call. It was a direct message, unspoken but loud. A message that, for some reason, the coaching staff didn't believe he could handle the pressure he had already dominated. They didn't trust the player who carried them into that position to carry them one final yard. And that's where confusion turns into something much darker. Because when a team makes a decision that illogical, that counterproductive, that damaging, people don't ask what happened. They start asking why. Why undermine your own quarterback? Why strip away his defining moment? Why sabotage the trust a young leader needs to succeed? The questions were already swirling before Shedeur even reached the locker room, and by the time he stepped up to the podium for the post-game press conference, that's when everything exploded. When Shedeur Sanders walked into the press room after the game, he didn't look like a rookie. He didn't look rattled. He didn't even look emotional, at least not at first. He looked composed, controlled, and ready to face the music. But beneath that calm exterior, you could feel the frustration simmering. His eyes told the story long before his words did. Something was very, very wrong in Cleveland. He fielded the first few questions with professionalism. He avoided taking the easy shots. He spoke like a leader, trying to keep the locker room together despite what just happened. But every reporter knew the real question. The only question was inevitable. Why weren't you on the field for that final play? Silence hung in the air for a moment. Shedeur inhaled slowly, searching for the right words. And when he spoke, the frustration he'd tried so hard to hide bled through every syllable. He explained that the Browns ran a play they couldn't even make work in practice, a play that everyone knew wasn't ready, a play that made zero sense for that situation. His voice cracked just slightly, not from sadness, but from disbelief, because even he couldn't justify the insanity of that decision. And that's when things changed. The media kept digging, questioning whether he wanted the ball in his hands during the biggest moment of the game. Of course he did. Everyone knew that, but he still tried to answer diplomatically. He talked about doing whatever the team needed, about trusting the game plan, but his patience was wearing thin. You could see it in the tightness of his jaw, the way he leaned forward in his chair, the sharpness in his tone. Then, one reporter asked a question so obvious it felt insulting. Something about whether Jerry Jeudy was supposed to be his target on a touchdown. Shedeur didn't even pretend to hide his irritation anymore. "All right, come on," he snapped, eyes wide, lips pressed tight. Who else would it be? That was the crack in the dam. The frustration that had been building for weeks, not just tonight, finally started spilling out. And when one reporter once again tiptoed around the real issue, Shedeur unleashed the moment that would go viral across the sports world within minutes. "These reporters be asking idiotic questions," he said, voice rising with each word. "Why don't y'all go ask Kevin Stefanski some real damn questions? Why don't y'all go ask Tommy Rees some real damn questions about what's going on with this sabotage job? Why don't y'all go ask that? Let's stop all the footing around and playing games. Go ask the real questions." There it was, the word that changed everything. Sabotage. Not implied, not hinted at, spoken, direct, raw, emotional. He didn't point fingers, he didn't name a villain, but he put a spotlight on the coaching staff so bright that nobody, not even the reporters he scolded, could ignore it. Because if the rookie quarterback himself thinks something is going on behind the scenes, imagine what players are saying privately. Imagine what coaches are whispering in meeting rooms. Imagine what fans are already screaming online. That press conference didn't just express frustration, it exposed cracks in the franchise's foundation. It showed the world that trust between quarterback and coaches may already be broken. And when a relationship like that shatters, the consequences can change an entire organization. This wasn't a meltdown, this was a warning shot, a message from a leader who refuses to be walked over, a declaration that his voice matters and he's no longer afraid to use it. But here's the scary part for Cleveland. This wasn't the start of a problem. It was the moment the world finally saw a problem that has been brewing for weeks. And what happens next could tear the Browns' locker room apart. What happened on the field was bad enough, but when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, a far more alarming narrative starts to form, one that fans and analysts have already begun to notice. This season wasn't supposed to feel chaotic. This wasn't supposed to feel like internal drama and confusion. The Browns promised structure, leadership, and a long-term plan when they drafted Shedeur. Instead, the early signs point to a franchise that might already be losing control. Rumors around Cleveland suggest that tension inside the locker room is growing. Conversations about miscommunication and lack of unity aren't happening behind closed doors anymore. They're spilling into the public. And when problems reach the surface this early into a rookie quarterback's career, something is clearly off. A foundation that should be rock solid suddenly looks like it's cracking under pressure. Take the offense, for example. Week after week, the identity seems to shift. One game emphasizes aggression, the next feels conservative and confused. Players don't look like they're reacting, they look like they're thinking too much. And in football, hesitation is deadly. A team that doesn't trust its system usually doesn't trust the people calling the plays either. Then there's the communication, or lack of it. Fans have pointed out moments on the sideline where players appear frustrated with the decisions coming in. Cameras have caught receivers throwing their hands up after plays. Even veteran leaders seem unsure at times about what the plan is. When a quarterback senses that kind of uncertainty around him, it creates a ripple effect that spreads through the entire roster. And let's not forget the public interaction between Shedeur and Jerry Jeudy just a week ago. Reports claim there was a heated disagreement, the kind of thing most teams try to keep quiet. Instead, it hit the headlines and raised questions about chemistry in the locker room. Shedeur handled it with maturity and forgiveness, but the fact that the dispute surfaced at all hints at deeper frustration bubbling beneath the surface. Fans have begun to speculate about whether the coaching staff truly has a unified approach. Some claim there's a power struggle between philosophies, old-school caution versus modern trust in your franchise quarterback. Others believe the staff never expected Shedeur to start this strong, and now they're scrambling to adjust. Regardless of the reasoning, the results on the field tell a simple story. A confident young quarterback is running full speed toward greatness, while the people guiding him seem stuck in the mud. The decisions aren't aligning with the talent, the messaging isn't matching the moment, And in sports, when actions contradict common sense, people notice. Players notice. Fans notice. The locker room notices. When everyone begins to question leadership, stability disappears, and it disappears fast. Right now, Cleveland isn't dealing with one incident, they're dealing with a pattern of confusion, hesitation, and questionable decisions that could derail the very player they're relying on to save the future of the franchise. Because the truth is simple. You can't build around a star if the foundation beneath him keeps shifting. You can't lead a winning team if the locker room doesn't know what or who to believe in. And unless something changes, this situation could reach a breaking point no one saw coming. In the middle of all the chaos, all the finger-pointing, and all the confusion swirling around the Browns organization, one thing remains crystal clear. Shedeur Sanders is built differently. A situation that would break most rookie quarterbacks hasn't even caused him to blink. Instead of crumbling under pressure, he's using it as fuel, turning frustration into focus and adversity into leadership. What makes Shedeur special isn't just the arm strength, the athleticism, or the highlight reel throws. It's what happens when everything starts going wrong. It's the calmness in his voice when the team needs direction. It's the confidence in his eyes when everyone else is unsure. It's the way he stands up in front of veteran teammates and reminds them that unity matters more than ego. That mentality doesn't come from hype. It comes from a lifetime of being prepared for moments exactly like this. Even after the interception earlier in the game, he didn't blame the weather, the play call, or the line. He blamed himself. He said the offense felt stagnant and he tried to force a spark. That level of honesty from a rookie, especially a rookie who has every excuse available, shows maturity far beyond his age. Plenty of young quarterbacks melt down after a mistake like that. Shedeur responded by leading 2 clutch scoring drives with flawless execution. Then there's the situation with Jerry Jeudy. A public disagreement can tear a team apart quickly if emotions aren't handled correctly. But instead of adding fuel to the fire, Shedeur gathered his teammates before the game and delivered a message of forgiveness and togetherness. He told them that grudges don't win football games. Unity does. And when he later threw Jeudy that touchdown pass, it wasn't just a play, it was a statement. Everyone eats when we win together. This is the leadership quality that separates quarterbacks who simply play the position from quarterbacks who own it. And beneath all of that is something far more personal, his faith. When reporters asked how he stayed so mentally strong through the chaos, Shedeur pointed straight to his connection with God. He talked about clarity in the midst of confusion, peace during adversity, and strength that comes from something bigger than football or fame. That isn't rehearsed. That isn't media-trained fluff. That's a young man grounded in something solid while the world around him wobbles. Most rookies spend their first year trying not to drown in information. Shedeur is swimming through a flood of challenges with determination and purpose. He knows where he's going, even if the people around him can't seem to find the map. Make no mistake, this isn't a quarterback who will quietly accept being held back. He sees the reality of the situation and still chooses to push forward, unafraid to call out what's broken. He doesn't shrink from the spotlight, he demands better under it. If anything, the chaos around him is doing the opposite of what many expected. It isn't breaking him, it's sharpening him. It's building him into the exact leader Cleveland desperately needs. But that's what makes this next chapter so risky, because history shows what happens to promising quarterbacks in Cleveland. And that brings us to the Browns' greatest fear. If you followed the NFL for even a few years, you already know the Cleveland Browns have a reputation, and not a kind one. For decades, this franchise has been the place where promising quarterbacks go to fade into obscurity. A revolving door of future stars walking in with swagger and walking out with shattered confidence. And every single time, fans swear the curse is finally ended until the next disappointment proves otherwise. Names that once carried hope now sit on a long list of what-ifs. Talented passers arrived with potential only to be swallowed by instability. Coaches went and went, systems changed constantly. The one constant, the quarterback always paid the price. In Cleveland, careers don't fail because players can't perform. They fail because the environment refuses to support them. Shedeur Sanders was supposed to be the one who escaped that fate. He's not just another rookie with a big arm. He's a brand, a leader, a player with confidence and poise that can't be taught. Draft him was a chance for the Browns to hit restart, to build a stable future, and to finally prove that they could develop a quarterback the right way. Instead, the déjà vu is already setting in. Mixed signals from coaches, questionable decisions in crucial moments, public tension that should never leave the locker room, loose communication, confusion on the sideline. Fans can feel the pattern forming because they've lived through it too many times before. And the craziest part? Shedeur is performing in spite of the dysfunction. He's putting up numbers that rookies in perfect systems struggle to match, while being thrown into chaos that would break most players. But even greatness can only survive so long without real support behind it. That's what scares Cleveland fans the most. Because they've seen this movie. They've seen elite talent ruined not by opponents, but by their own organization. The fear isn't just losing games. It's wasting a generational player who could thrive somewhere else. It's watching another star realize he deserves better and walking away to find success in a city that understands how rare he is. With Shedeur's pedigree, confidence, and presence, he's not a quarterback who will quietly accept being mishandled. He's not someone who will let his development fall apart because of weak leadership. If the Browns don't shape up fast, one day the headlines could shift from Shedeur Sanders, future of the franchise, to should Shedeur demand a trade? And when a fan base starts asking that question, the clock officially starts ticking. Cleveland is standing on the edge of history, again. Either they finally break the curse, protect their young star, and build a future worthy of his talent, or they repeat the same mistakes that have haunted them for decades. And if they choose wrong, the rest of the league will be waiting with open arms. Every once in a generation, a quarterback enters the league who isn't just a player, he's a movement. Someone who brings energy, spotlight, and a level of confidence that instantly changes the temperature of a franchise. Shedeur Sanders is one of those players, and with that kind of star power comes a reality that some organizations struggle to handle. You can't control a star like him. You can only build around him or get left behind. From his swagger, to his leadership, to his natural command of the spotlight, Shedeur doesn't fit the mold of a quarterback who politely waits his turn. He expects to win. He expects the offense to run through him. He expects the organization to match his ambition. That mindset isn't arrogance, it's earned confidence, built from years of being doubted, challenged, and forced to prove every critic wrong. But that kind of energy can be intimidating for coaches who prefer compliance over charisma. Rumors online suggest that some inside the building may feel overshadowed, that Shedeur's popularity and influence are growing faster than expected. When fans show up wearing his jersey more than anyone else's, when reporters care more about his comments than the coaching staff's explanations, when his presence becomes bigger than the system, some leadership figures don't handle that well. Because when a star is this magnetic, this vocal, this undeniable, one question starts to creep into insecure minds. Who's really in charge? Is it the coaches designing the plays, or the quarterback who can turn broken systems into miracles? Shedeur's presence challenges old-school hierarchy. He isn't just the face of the franchise, he's becoming the voice of it. And when he speaks, people listen. His press conference proved that. In a few sentences, he shifted the entire narrative, placing scrutiny exactly where he felt it belonged. Most rookies are terrified of saying the wrong thing. Shedeur isn't afraid to say the right thing, especially when nobody else will. That kind of influence is rare. It's also powerful, and power like that can either unify a franchise or threaten those who don't like their authority questioned. Fans have already embraced the idea that this is his team now. Teammates rally behind him because they see his belief in them. Even opposing defenses recognize he carries a different kind of pressure, the kind that bends games in his favor. When momentum swings his way, there's a feeling that anything is possible. But with every sign of his rising stardom, the tension grows thicker. If the organization continues to make decisions that hold him back, the public will start demanding answers. Coaches will lose the benefit of the doubt, and the worst-case scenario becomes very real. They're not just risking another losing season, they're risking losing Shedeur himself. Because a quarterback with this much talent and influence will not spend his prime fighting against his own sideline. If Cleveland can't keep up with the future he's trying to build, he'll find someone who can. The NFL world is watching closely now, waiting to see which direction this story goes next. Right now, the Cleveland Browns are standing at a crossroads. On one path is a future they've been chasing for decades, a true franchise quarterback who can change everything, a player who doesn't just give them hope, but expectation, who lifts teammates, electrifies a fan base, and finally gives this city the leader it deserves. That is the path Shedeur Sanders has already begun paving, not with promises, but with performance. But on the other path, the same story that has haunted this team for years, a cycle of wasted potential, broken trust, young quarterbacks forced to overcome the very people meant to develop them. Fans have seen it before, and they're terrified they're seeing it again. Online discussions, sports radio segments, and viral commentary are all circling the same uneasy question. Is Cleveland supporting their future or slowly destroying it? To be clear, nobody outside the building knows the full truth. Maybe the questionable decisions have innocent explanations. Maybe the miscommunication is just early season growing pains. Maybe everyone in the organization truly wants Shedeur to succeed. But the perception right now, the story fans and the media are writing, suggests a storm is brewing. And perceptions like that don't just disappear, they escalate. This rookie quarterback just proved he can handle pressure bigger than the moment itself. He proved he can stay poised while chaos swirls around him. He proved that he is a leader, not someday, but right now. If Cleveland doesn't recognize what's in front of them, if they allow ego, confusion, or outdated thinking to get in the way, they won't just be wasting a talent, they'll be pushing him away. Because a player with Shedeur Sanders' strength, voice, and impact won't let his career collapse under someone else's mistakes. If this organization doesn't protect him, guide him, and trust him, another franchise will. One that sees what he truly is, a future superstar the league will eventually have no choice but to respect. The Browns are one decision away from steering this story toward greatness, or letting it turn into yet another cautionary tale. The world is watching, the fan base is waiting, and Shedeur? He's already shown he's ready for the moment. The only question left is this: will Cleveland rise with him, or be the reason he rises somewhere else?